Okay, guys, we're live. I'll let you know when the music's finished playing.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'm going to play one more song and then we're good to go in about 3.5 minutes. Final call.
Okay.
Okay, guys, we're ready to rock and roll. This is Dumpster Truffles broadcasting around the world and across the galaxy. A big hello to everybody. Good morning, world. Do you want to say hello, Crystal and Puppy?
Good morning, everybody. Well, good morning for me. I guess it's evening for you guys, wherever you are. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you.
Good morning. Good morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are. This is Puppy Max from the Netherlands.
And Dumpster Truffles from Australia. And we've got the fabulous Crystal Time as a guest on the show. We'll be looking at all things heavenly this evening, the divine cosmos, a divine cosmos. And Oz has joined us. Yay, woohoo! We got a full crew. So I'm just going to do a quick prayer. Just a quick prayer, just to say, make sure we start off on the right foot. These things are important. I'll say the only prayer that I feel comfortable saying, and this one was taught to me by my grandfather, and it goes like this. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the warmth of family and friends, and we ask that you bless us in our purpose. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 And,
is Carmen okay?
No, Carmen is unwell. She has a splitting headache. She will not be joining us this evening.
Oh, prayers for her.
Prayers for Carmen, indeed. So, if you're in America, you're just bouncing out of bed now, which means it's time to get vertical, time to get caffeinated, face the day with a smile on your dial and a spring in your step. And if you could be anywhere across the world at all, or whatever this finds you doing, you might be a young mum, you might be a shift worker, you might be an office worker. Whatever it is that you finds you doing that you find yourself doing while you're listening to us here, I hope it all goes well for you. And you're with Oz and On, Crystal Time, Puppy Max, and myself, Dumpster. Oh, she's just unmiked. You want to say hello there to the folks playing at home, Oz?
G'day, mic check. Can you hear me?
I'm not sure.
Oh, good. I didn't know what
setting I had
it on. Hello. I didn't think. Excuse me. Dear Eddie, I didn't think the show was on tonight. Oh, this cough's gonna kill me. I shouldn't say that. Touch wood. Good evening, everyone. Hey, y'all. Hey, Jenna, Gunsmoke, JTO, blah, 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 Gunsmoke. Crystal, thank you for joining us. Bit of confusion around my parts about the show tonight, so apologies, and I'm completely unprepared, so I'll disappear for a little while, I think.
It's okay, Oz. We'll get through the show. No worries. Don't worry. It's all good. And I probably should give you... I screwed things up. I should have notified you earlier that we were on tonight. I was going to back
That's
out.
All right.
But we've got Crystal with us, so I thought I'd truck on through. Crystal has some great research lined up for us. And it's the kind of research that I don't usually take the time to look at. But I was told by someone else that I had to check this out, that this Atlas comet was unbelievable, and that the work she's put together is absolutely on point. So everybody, thank Crystal for being here.
Hey, yo, Crystal, welcome.
Thank you and welcome, Crystal.
Welcome aboard, Crystal.
Thank you. I hope I can, this is the first time me doing this, so I'm, I can chat, but trying to get the screenshots to match what I'm talking about is going to be my biggest challenge. So forgive me if I don't have all the pictures that I would love to pull for you, but I have so many and I'm just trying to get organized here. I'll do my best.
That's okay. If you just point me at the image you want displayed on the screen while you're speaking, just do so. And like I said, if anything you drop into the general text of this Discord server, I will be able to maximize for the people playing at home.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, Carmen won't be joining us this evening. She's got a splitting hangover, or headache rather, probably, knowing Carmen. So I do hope she's well. And if you're listening in, Carmen, get that troll hammer ready. And, yeah. Anyway, it's very good of you all to come
Oh my gosh, Dumpster, hangover, defamation of character on Carmen.
I corrected myself. I took it back. Good enough.
If you're listening in, Carmen, you can give him a clip around the ears later. It's all good. All good. All fun. All family.
Okie dokes, folks. Do you reckon we should we play a song and wait for people to assemble, or keep on trucking?
It's in your hands, mate.
Okay. I'll unleash Crystal upon the world. Crystal, do you feel comfortable speaking now, my friend?
Or do you need a bit more time?
Oh, I can speak. I just speaking's not the problem. It's just I'm trying to get all these screenshots here. But what I'm going to do is what I'd like to talk about where things were in the sky on the founding date of the United States. I think people need to see the visual of what the founding fathers aligned everything to. They did everything to the sky, okay? And that's what is so fascinating about it. And there's like a story in the sky, and they wanted it at an exact specific location, all the story, so that it would basically give us the empowerment to achieve what they want us to achieve. Okay, they want us to achieve freedom of our soul. That's what personally I see this whole movement is about. It's not just a left and right paradigm. It's really way more spiritual than that, and it is biblical, but it's also in the sky. So there's a relationship between the two.
So the heavens affect us on Earth. We can get into detail about how they actually do that. But do you want to talk a little bit about the founding fathers, perhaps? I'm not fully up to speed with it. It's not my country's history. I know the basics. I know that it was a bunch of Freemasons who in 1776 decided that they built the best country in the world. And so maybe you could talk a little bit about that, please, Crystal.
Okay, so my understanding is, from my research, is that, there was basically a war going on in England and in France, and, they want the Celts, I guess the Brittonies and the Welsh and the Scottish, they really wanted to have their freedom from the English, right? So they couldn't attain it there. There's so many wars, and, they always fought, but eventually the English took over Wales. But what I understand is a lot of the founding fathers, especially Robert Morris, which most people don't know a lot about. He's on the painting of the Apotheosis of Washington in the Rotunda building, and he's like next to Mercury. And Mercury is handing him the money because he was the financier of the War of Independence, okay? But he was Welsh, okay? And he was a Navy guy, basically shipping goods from Wales to the United States because of the tin and copper mines in Wales, for ammunition and stuff. So anyhow, he had a huge business. He was the richest man in North America at the time. And he created the first Bank of North America. He was also the founding of the Republican Party. And you would honestly think with all these achievements that he would be considered like really well known. He also signed the Declaration of Independence. His name is on there next to John Hancock. So I'm kind of like, when I realized, like, okay, how come nobody knows about this person? So what I ended up doing, I actually reached out to Welsh historians, and their whole history of Wales has basically been like wiped out. It's been totally like, the whole thing, like the whole King Arthur story, everything. It's all been kind of smudged. So when I started doing all this research, I realized that the reason that they don't want people to know it was the Welsh that kind of started this new country to fight the Brits or fight the English is because this is where it gets really crazy. There's Welsh-speaking Indians in North America that had been there for thousands of years.
Hang on, back up a minute, Krista. So they were speaking the native Gaelic tongue of the Welsh before colonisation. Is that true?
Yes, exactly. They were called the Mandan Indians, just how I'm saying it, Mandan. Okay. So when you get into the full history of King Arthur, the legend of King Arthur, he was actually his brother Madoc. You can look him up, Gwen Madoc. You see it. It's all there. He basically came to North America before Columbus. Okay, so the Welsh have a huge history in North America. And, obviously they were Freemasons, as many elite people were. They weren't the only ones, but, the English were Freemasons too. But they came with that knowledge and they instilled it into the Native community. And then all of a sudden, when they were colonizing the United States, they were like, oh my God, there's Welsh-speaking Indians. Next thing you know, they all get smallpox, and they wiped out the whole tribe almost. It was like they don't want the history of the Welsh known, okay? And now what I found out from these Welsh historians that have written books all on King Arthur and stuff is that it's because of the language. The language of Wales is actually able to decode the copper scrolls in Egypt. Okay, so there's the whole migration of Europe and everything has not been told correctly. And who are these people? That's a whole other story. But all I'm saying is they came to the United States to free themselves from the English, and it was like they have a resonance in their language that actually heals the body. Okay, and that is partly why. It's all to do with resonance of the sound in the language.
Okay, so just to recap, because you laid a lot out there, the Welsh language was present in America before colonization. So pre-Columbus, there was contact between the Welsh and the Indians. And you said something here about factional warfare, and this goes into another rabbit hole that I wouldn't mind discussing either. But for the moment, is it fair enough to say that there was some sort of cultural exchange between continental United States and Europe? Would this be true?
A continental exchange. I'm sorry, I don't really understand.
Sorry, cultural exchange between continents. I got my words a bit screwy.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, I think the Welsh came to North America to just start a new country that had freedom from the English. Okay, that was really because these wars with the Welsh and the English go back. If you go into history, it go back into really 1100s. They were always fighting the English, and they held their ground for a long time. The English couldn't get into Wales because of the mountains, and then eventually they scrubbed the whole English language, the Welsh language. The British were like, you're not allowed to speak that language. They took it all out of the schools. They scrubbed all their history. The Welsh weren't allowed to talk about their own history anymore. So it's like a genocide. And so eventually, I guess in the 1700s, they were like, no, screw it. We're going to get to North America, and we're going to start a new country, and we're going to, get our freedom back.
Wow. Can I get you to backtrack a little bit, please, on the suppression of ancient knowledge? And I'll throw in my own 2 cents worth here. I know from my own history that when Governor Bligh actually founded the colony of Sydney, the Aboriginal representatives that greeted him with Masonic hand signs. So this kind of information, it might sound pretty far out there, but I'm thinking this is fairly well rooted in fact.
Yeah, it's the whole what I understand from I listened to Dan Winters, he's a scientist that he's in a way like an occult esoteric scientist. So when I say occult or esoteric, what I'm saying is hidden, okay? That's all it means. It has nothing to do with witchcraft and satanic worship, okay? And this is really, when I say this, it's about this hidden knowledge of our bodies and what they're actually made for, okay? And this is really important in connection to Aboriginals and their ancestral homeland, because when your DNA is connected to the ley line that your ancestors were connected to, there is a spiritual connection through your body into the earth that you're on. Okay, and this is why you see all across the world the Aboriginals have been repressed. It's everywhere, right? Obviously in North America with the Indians, like they pulled them off their land, put them in little, reservations and stuff, and it's done everywhere. It's the same as the blacks in Africa or wherever, or Australia. It's like they just keep trying to keep these people really depressed, okay? And there's a reason, because of their ancestral knowledge and their connection to the earth, their emotion goes into the ley lines of the planet, and then therefore goes into the water, and water holds memory. So therefore they can increase the frequency of the planet. So if they keep them really depressed or drunk like Native Americans, where they introduced alcohol, there's a disconnect that happens. So therefore they can keep the planet at a lower frequency.
Which begs the question, what do ancient peoples know that we don't? What is being kept from us, and why? This is a big question.
Yeah, well, my understanding is that it's about your ability to heal your own body. Okay, because through sound, obviously the Welsh language was able to do that. Obviously, I'm if you go into linguistics, I'm sure there's other languages that do the same thing and have the same type of resonance, like that deep throat stuff, and that does a resonance through your chakra system, which therefore allows you to heal your own body, and you don't need big pharma. It's like, this is what it's all about, right?
This is good. So you go into, it makes you wonder what the Aboriginal perspective on existence must have been that they tried to eradicate them. Because I've heard this a couple of times but never looked into it deeply. But there is a suppression of ancient knowledge, and you get ancient knowledge that has things like astronomy, astrology, mathematics and science and so forth. And I'm just wondering, what are they so afraid of that Aboriginal peoples knew that we don't?
Well, if you go into history with the Spanish Inquisition, which was in South America, I believe around the 10th century or 11th century, they killed like 10,000 people. This is the church, okay? They went in and slaughtered 10,000 people because they looked at the sky. Okay, so this is partly why, I think through our culture, anybody that does astrology or looks at the sky, you're satanic. It's like I've been honestly, attacked through Discord by talking about this stuff, because people still have that belief. But if you go back in history, you're like, hey, wait a second here. This was the church that went into these native lands and slaughtered people. Who's satanic? Okay, these people were just, living. They knew what the sky was saying. They knew what was happening in the sky had a relationship to them. They were connected to the divine. Okay, the divine is the sky. Okay, it's the heavens. So I get really like a little bit like, hello, we're all disconnected, but we're not getting the whole picture here. It's even when you understand the zodiac and you understand it through and mystery school knowledge, not like astrology that we're taught, because actually astrology is disconnected as well, because they don't even have the right signs at the right places anymore. Okay, so whatever you think you are, you're not. Okay, so that's all disconnected. So they've disconnected us from the sky so much that we don't understand the energies, and these native people did. And so basically they slaughtered them and said, look, you have to worship Jesus Christ, which is, there's nothing wrong with the Bible. I love the Bible. But what the real thing is the esoteric knowledge of the sky is in the Bible. Okay, so when somebody says to me, the sky is evil, I'm like, well, it's all in the Bible. But people don't even know what they're reading. Like, if I read the book of Revelations, I can see, because I understand ancient mystery school knowledge, I can see all the zodiacs in the Bible. It's all through it. And it's also the activation of your chakras is all through it. So it's like, I can read it and see it like that, but other people don't. So it's like, see how it's like disconnected everywhere. Everything's disconnected.
Ourselves from each other, but more importantly, ourselves from the very land itself.
Yeah, the land relating to the sky, because when the planets are in certain positions, the zodiac actually, like each constellation has a history. It has an energy to it. It also has a history, has a story, because it's the one thing that unifies us all. Every single culture on this planet, that was their TV set. They were all watching the sky. So, and of course, they all came up with the same stories and the same mythos, because things happen in the sky and they all recorded it. Oh, when that's there, this happens. And so they had a map. And then that's what they don't want us to know, is that it's universal. And what is the only thing that's universal in this whole world? Besides, it's not religion. It's not, it's not our cultures. It's the sky. And so we have to learn it again. We have to, because until we know it, we don't have true spirituality. In my mind, you're in disconnect. You don't know how your body, like we're batteries and we're water, and the sky and the moon and the sun and everything, it's pulling at us. We're connected to it. So we need to relearn it. That's my mission, is to help people understand it again.
I've got written notes here. First of all, you mentioned that there was a visual representation of the god Mercury in, was it Congress, I think you said? So they have it that openly.
Oh, yeah. The hypothesis of Washington has different planets in it. It has Neptune. It has Venus. Okay, Venus and Mercury are super important. They're very fast-moving planets, and they move with the sun. They're always kind of like moving really quickly with the sun and jumping in front of the sun, and then they go retrograde. And then, so it's like they're doing like a leapfrog around the sun, and they conjunct quite often, like at least, obviously every year or every, a couple times a year. But what they end up doing over an 8-year period is they create the pentagram. They create the 5-pointed star, okay, with the Venus Sun conjunctions. Now, Mercury is often in that conjunction, not every single time, but often. Okay, so Mercury and Venus are kind of a little bit like husband and wife, and their sun is the sun. Okay, and so, but they make the 5-pointed pentagram, which is the star. So why is the Pentagon, and why is the star on the American flag? It's because of that. And the founding fathers knew that, and they knew where Venus conjuncted often. Okay, and they were mapping everything because the constellation Taurus, which is the bull, which is why it's in Washington, not Washington, in New York, the bull for the stock exchange. It's because the bull is Venus's zodiac. Okay,
Hang on.
that relates.
Before we get into the whole understanding the heavens thing, you touched briefly on an issue about ley lines. Do you want to give the people playing at home a quick primer on what ley lines are? As I understand it, there's static lines, and then there's lines that seem to bend and flex and move across the map. And living in Australia, it's pretty hard to miss the ley lines. We have one running under Uluru that runs from coast to coast. So I know what you're talking about, Crystal, but the people playing at home, this might be new information for them.
Okay, so the ley lines are basically water aquifers that are under the ground. Okay, so that is why they create emotional trauma in those locations, because if they can create emotional trauma in where a ley line, a big huge ley line is, they can create sadness, okay, through the water system, and then that water ends up being us because we drink in, it's just like a continual kind of like energy zapping thing, because we're all electricity. Okay, we're electrical. We're mostly made of water. There's energies from the sky. The water's underneath us. It's all connected. Okay, because we're just basically batteries. Okay, so it's like they're sucking the energy off this planet because they like negative energy. Okay, they need it. Okay, and that's what they survive on, whoever is controlling this realm. That's a whole other topic. But the thing is, what's really fascinating is they've created a big ley line. They created all the cities from Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Washington, D.C. That's a huge ley line. It's a very heavily coated ley line because that's where the founding fathers, all came to. And they built all the cities on that ley line. And if you look at a map, you can see it's a direct line. All those cities are an exact line. Okay, so...
Ozanon just dropped that for you. Do you want me to maximize that image for you while you speak?
Yeah, it's not the right one. I didn't pull up. I don't have the ley line one. It's like I don't have it. Sorry, guys. But if you take Washington, if you just take a map, just take a picture of a map and draw a line from Boston through to Washington, D.C., you'll see it's an exact line, this exact straight line. Okay, and that is a really huge ley line, and that's why they created 9/11 on that ley line. It would put a lot of trauma into the the ley line, basically, into the energy of the ground and the water, which holds memory. Okay, it holds memory, and it's all about water and memory.
Sorry, could I just ask that again? I missed that. I was distracted. The ley line between which cities? And I'll see if I can find it for you.
Yeah, if you just take a map of the United States, if you just Boston, Philadelphia, New York, and Washington, D.C., it's all one line. That is a exact line right across. Yeah, so that's their mission, is just to keep us, in this lower fear, chaotic energy. And if you even we all have good intentions in this movement, but you can be part of the problem just by having so much hate for the opposite side. You are then therefore back in the loop of keeping the energy low on this planet. So it's really important that we, as freedom fighters here, that we keep our frequency high and super positive all the time, because we're kind of, the way I see it is that we have to counteract this negative energy.
Okay, so we're living on a planet that's run by psychic life vampires. I can actually believe that myself.
Yeah, basically, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's all one line, you see. And thank you for finding that. Yeah, basically that's it. And then of course, um, you know, that they created like a whole map across the United States, basically from Washington all the way through to the Golden Gate Bridge. It's one line. Okay, that is also another line. And then they created a pentagram from that. Oh, I got to find that screenshot. I'm going to look as I'm talking.
Okay, there's a question for you from YouTube. And Gunsmoke says, I wonder if ley lines run along the deep underground military bases, the DUMBs. Would there be that kind of correlation, Crystal? Take your time.
Oh, I would imagine, yeah, for sure. It's like any place where there's an important city, there is some type of energy line. Like the fact that they've created like Washington D.C. Right through to St. Louis, which is in the center of the United States. And right through to the Golden Gate Bridge. That is a really important, I think it's the 49th parallel. Don't quote me on that, but it's like, yeah, there's a line that goes right across the United States. Now, the reason they did that is all related to the sky, okay? They created the Silver Gate in St. Louis. First of all, because it has two big rivers coming through, like a Y, but also because they need the Silver Gate, they need the Golden Gate, and they need the Lion's Gate. Okay, now all of those are built on like a square. Like in the Freemasons, they use like a level, like a square, and then they also have the compass. Okay, so that is the square. Okay, so if you look at St. Louis, the Silver Archway, that would be Taurus. The horns are just put upside down. Okay, because Taurus, which I explained before, is the bull, is the Silver Gate. Okay, it's the Y family. Okay, the Y family is the Silver Gate because at the base of the Y in the sky is a little group of stars called the Hyades, and their father.
Get you to back up a little bit, please, Crystal. I didn't follow
Sure.
that, which means that other people probably missed it as well. But what we're talking about is geomancy. And are you familiar with the Hermetic principles?
The Hermetic principles of what, sorry?
Oh, doesn't matter. I was just saying that it's all about geomancy. What we're talking here is effectively the biggest kind of magic you could make on the earth, I guess. Would this be true?
Yes, it's magic, but it was magic done by the founding fathers, so we can awaken to it. It's not only, but it got hijacked. Okay, so it's not done nefariously. It was done for us to get enlightened, but it got hijacked along the road. Okay, so it's not to fear this information. It's more like how do we get control of it and use it and empower us. First of all, it's just understanding it is a big part of it, because that's what gnosis is. When we talk about enlightenment and reading from the book of knowledge or having gnosis, is to understand this language that I'm talking about. Okay, is to understand this stuff.
Okay,
So,
can I just make the comment that even if you put no trust in anything that Crystal's talking about, you should learn it, and you should learn it thoroughly and accurately, because even if you don't believe it, the bad guys believe this, and you should at the very least understand what their beliefs are and why their beliefs are like this. This is excellent. Thank you, Crystal.
yeah, so it's basically like they're following the Bible. For sure they're following the Bible, but they're also following the esoteric Christianity of the Bible. And this is what most people don't understand, okay? It's esoteric Christianity, which is all related to the zodiac in the sky. Okay. And once you understand there's a connection between the two, you have basically enlightenment because it's everywhere. Okay. The whole, like, I can't watch it. I can't even watch a commercial or a TV show without seeing it. It's like everywhere because the symbols that the sky makes, the planets make symbols. Okay. So the symbols are in our culture, they're in our subconscious, and they're programming us through the symbols, which you don't even know what you're looking at, okay? Because you don't understand this knowledge. So if you think, oh, well, we know all the symbols now. No, because you don't understand what they mean in the sky, okay? So yes, maybe you see a symbol and you go, oh, that's evil. But actually, it's not evil. So they're programming you to believe now that you're starting to awaken. That's what I see through the Q movement. It's like, oh, that symbol means that. Well, who told you it meant that? Because if you go deeper, it actually means something in the sky. So you're fearing a pathway in the sky because the sky has two directions. One is enlightenment and one is being harvested back into this whole system. Okay. So you have to really understand which path is which path and understand what each symbol means. And once I can go through the symbols, but I just want to kind of go over the United States again because it's fascinating what they built there. They built, you have the Washington Monument. That is kind of, yes, it's Osiris's missing part. And that's what we've understood through the Q movement. Oh, it's Egyptian. It's evil. Blah blah blah. It's also a sundial. Okay, it creates a shadow, and it creates it through it's attached to the sky. It's creating time. It's also creating direction. So anyhow, so there's that there, and then exactly straight out is St. Louis. Okay, so we get the Silver Gate, and that Silver Gate is basically horns upside down. And you can go and check out the date it was made. I can tell you, it was all done as a ritual. The date that it was, put up and opened, it's all coded to numbers, but some people aren't, it just goes on and on and on. I can decode this down to the T because it's there. Okay. Now, if you continue going on, you get to the Golden Gate, which represents the location in the sky where the Milky Way is like a big round golden egg. Okay, and that's why it's called the Golden Gate, and that's at the point of Sagittarius, the arrow. And that's why Trump has on his logo, he's holding the arrow. Okay, that's all because that means the Golden Gate.
Wow, this is huge. So you're getting into fractal mathematics as part of the geomancy. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the inverted pentagram that's laid out in Washington. And there's a city known as Canberra in Australia that has, it's very different symbols, but the symbology is there. It's all hexes and circles connected to each other. So geomancy is something that's been done for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, but the whole point of it is what planet does it mean? Okay? Because when you understand what planet that symbol means, then you will understand what it represents. Now, I just told you it's Venus in conjunction with the sun and the earth that gives you that pentagram. So what does Venus represent? When I say to you, what does Venus represent? Most people will say love. Okay, so do you see how everything is bipolar? Okay, it really depends on your own internal programming, how you see that symbol. In every single planet has a duality to it. Okay, so Venus is love. She's Aphrodite, but she's also a big ball of fire. Okay, so who told us that it was love? Does it really mean love? Or, so you have to like break it down until you understand what that planet represents. And really it does, in my mind, it does represent love. It is, because every single goddess to all our history, all our mythos, when it's a woman and she's a goddess, she's attached to Venus. Okay, so one of the oldest goddess that most people don't know about is called the Maga Mother. The Maga Mother is the Queen of Heaven. She's the it was a perfect representation of it at the Super Bowl. We had J-Lo. She was dressed in ice, and then we had Shakira dressed in fire. Okay, because Venus is the morning star and the evening star. Well, who's the morning star in the Bible? Oh, that's Jesus. Okay. Who is what is the morning star and what is the evening star? It's the light bringer. Well, who's the light bringer? It's Lucifer. So Venus represents love. She also represents Lucifer. She also represents all the woman goddesses in the world. She also represents Jesus. So it's your choice,
please, Crystal.
Sure.
Okay, you're talking about meanings and effects that the planets have on us. Do you think that there is some sort of inherent action that these planets have on us? Or are we attaching meaning? I'm not sure how to ask this question. But, I mean, obviously planets or planetoids like the moon have an effect on humans. The female cycle, for instance. So, if the moon can have that kind of effect on us, do these other planets have a concrete effect on us the way that the moon does? Or are we simply attaching meaning to the moon or these other stars? I think I put that question as best I could.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Before you answer, so can I say something? I just dropped something in general in your dumpster.
Yeah,
it's a map of ley lines and a dump map.
Thank you, sir. I've already shared that with the folks playing at home.
Oh, okay, didn't see that.
It looks like there's a very big nexus point just west of the mountains, it looks like.
I'm working on a more detailed map, so go right ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No problem. So Venus, okay, the thing with Venus is she represents the woman, because Venus does this thing in the sky, basically goes for 9 months. It's and it goes around for 9 months, and then it gets in front of the sun for 8 days. Okay, and then you can't see it, and then it goes up around again for 9 months, and then it gets behind the sun. Okay, now this whole thing about ancient cultures, they had a pan, and they would use the pan, and they call it frying pans. It's like basically a pan that had water in it, and they would try to get it up at the sun, and they would put the reflection on the wall, because they wanted to know, excuse me, when Venus was in that 8-day window, because she was going to be birthing something. And they believe that the return of Jesus Christ is in that 8-day window. That's why these cultures were so obsessed with Venus. She gives birth.
Wow. What is it called when a planet does one of those loopity-loops in the sky?
Retrograde. Goes backwards for.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, it goes retrograde. So when it's in retrograde, it's like actually doing the opposite of what it's normally representing when it's going forward. So if Venus is retrograde, she's like not representing love. She's representing the opposite of that. So that's why these energies are really physical to us. Okay, what's crazy is we have coming up, we have the sun getting into the corona in the sky. Okay, this is why we have the coronavirus. The coronavirus is actually Aries. Okay, Aries is the crown of the zodiac. it's basically the crown of Christ. And that's why they call this virus the corona. The reason they called it the corona this year is because Uranus, which was originally the Greek god Uranus, which is the god of heaven. Okay, Uranus has like a really slow cycle. It takes 83 years or 84 years for it to go around once. Okay, and it happens to be in the corona this year. Okay, and the sun is going to be in Aries at the beginning of May, like in a few days. And we have Mercury, which I believe is Trump. Trump represents Mercury. And we can go into all what that means. But there's a conjunction on 5-5 next month. Okay, so we got the 5-5, we have Mercury and the sun and heaven all in the corona.
Wow, this is a lot to take in. This is really quite detailed. I mentioned earlier the Hermetic principles. One of those principles is the principle of correspondence, as above, so below. So is that the kind of effect that these heavenly bodies have on us as people?
Yes, exactly. As above, so below. And you know, people that knew how to read the sky would go, okay, well, look, you know, we're in this constellation right now. It's time to chill out. You know, there's no point pushing us ourselves, and you know, and now we're in this really energetic constellation, and we've got this planet's there, so it's kind of bust our butts. You know, so people knew what to do, when to do it. Like now we're just like walking zombies. Like we don't have you know, every day we're like, oh, we got to push ourselves, you know, and then when our bodies are going, oh my God, I'm so tired. Well, there's a reason, you know, just like let it be, you know, you have to, but if you understand the sky, you would know, oh, well, I'm going to not feel too energetic next week. I know that. It's not programming. You'll feel it because there's energies like it's connecting. But this year is so heavily coded. It is mind-blowing. It is coded to the 25,920 year cycle of the great cosmic year. I believe that the founding fathers coded everything to this year. So that's a whole other discussion, and I can talk to you about those cycles, but I just think it's probably just more simple just to kind of talk about what they've put out on the ground, because then you can kind of start to know what things mean. Okay, the Golden Gate means the Golden Gate in the sky, and that is where it's everything. Like we're actually, the Golden Gate is where the ecliptic, where the planets go across, and right where the Milky Way goes across. Okay, so it creates an X, and that happens on the winter solstice. The sun is in the Golden Gate every single year on the winter solstice, and that is dark to light. Okay, so that is why that day is so important. It's 3 days before Christmas.
Okay. Do you need a song? Do you need a break or anything, Crystal?
Yeah, maybe. I need to drink some water and my voice is starting to go here, but...
For sure, I'll play a song. I'll let you know when the music's over, okay?
Okay.
Just a minute, guys. I'm getting the music going. Oh, thank you, Oz. Nice catch.
That's okay, just a backup just in case.
Are we good to go? Yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Thank
Just
you.
a song for Carmen.
Oh, yeah, we haven't said... guys, Carmen's got an absolutely splitting headache. She won't be joining us this evening. Hopefully she'll be on the mend by Friday. But now we got some banjo-picking, toothless, moonshine-drinking party freaks.
You nailed it.
And the song is done. Crystal, are you ready to continue? Or would you like a few moments to compose yourself? Are you ready to go?
No, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah, I just dropped this one top pick here. Then you see the pentagram. They basically created this across the United States and built the cities around this diagram. So so right in the center there is St. Louis. Now, what's interesting about St. Louis, that's where the two giant American eclipses go across. And they both end up crossing at that point. It's called the New Madrid area there, where earthquakes can happen too.
Wow.
But yeah, so
they made a pentagram 2,500 miles high.
yeah, it actually goes farther up.
Okay. You don't do something like that without a purpose, that's for sure.
Exactly. So above it, like I don't have this in there, but if you go up farther, it's the crown. It's called Leopold Island in Nunavut. It's a really interesting island. It's like just a round, severe walls. Like it's just like a big giant pancake, but really deep, with high cliffs. And it's called a bird sanctuary island. It's kind of funny, actually, because you want to be on the bird path for enlightenment. You don't want to be on the rabbit path. You don't want to follow the white rabbit. The white rabbit, don't ever say I want to follow the white rabbit. Okay, just get that lingo out of your vocabulary. You want. You want to fly like an eagle. You want to be the bird, okay? Now, the reason it's called Leopold Island, this is an interesting story, which is the crown. Now, first I'll tell you where it is in the sky, okay? The crown is, yes, it's Aries. I told you that's the corona, the zodiac, but there's also a crown, a cluster of stars called the Pleiades. They're the seven sisters. It's in the Hallelujah song. The seven sisters, they're in the shoulder of Taurus. Okay, everything is about the Pleiades. This whole ritual in the sky that everything is all about that cluster. And if you want to know who their father is, okay, and the father of the little cluster that's in the Y of the horns in Taurus as well, their fathers are Atlas. The Atlas comet that is here for the rest of the summer. That's not a coincidence. Okay, they're half sisters. The cluster of the Hyades and the cluster of the Pleiades. Their father is Atlas, who happens to be the Greek god that holds up the world. He also happens to be the Atlantean king, Atlas. Okay, so.
Okay. That's cool. Thank you, Crystal. Continue, please.
Okay, so this Crown Island up in Nunavut, which is a bird island, okay, it's named Leopold Island. Now, who is Leopold? Leopold was Queen Victoria's son, okay, and he was a heavy Freemason person. Okay, everybody loved him. He was kind, and he came to Canada a lot, a few times, and I'm sure he did it because they were mapping all this out. Okay, what's interesting is he's all tied into the Alice in Wonderland story. Okay, he was in love with Alice. Okay, now if you go into the whole Alice in Wonderland story, the actual author of Alice in Wonderland was also in love with this little girl when she was 10. and Leopold fell in love with her when she was about 19. Then what's his name that wrote the book? I can't even remember his name now. Carl.
Lewis. Carl.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's not his real name, but yeah, we'll just call him that. But he ended up, all of a sudden, the family didn't want to talk to him anymore. Obviously, he was a pedo. Okay, he did something to Alice. Leopold fell in love with her when she was a bit older. And so that whole island, that Leopold Island, just reminds me of like Alice in Wonderland. Every time I talk about it, I'm like, it's Alice in Wonderland. But the crazy part is, the Alice in Wonderland story is in the sky. It's the whole story of Alice in Wonderland's in the sky. And I won't go into that today, but I just want you to understand that everything that is done through Ancient Mystery School is all related to the sky. And so all our storybooks, all our nursery rhymes, they're all related to the sky. Okay, so because that's the story, that's who we are. That's who we are. And they just don't want us to know it, so they program us to go, oh, it means this, but it's not. It's always the sky. Everything goes back to the sky. Okay, so we have St. Louis in the center of this pentagram. Now, if you look, what does the red part of the pentagram look like? It's the Space Force symbol, right? You guys see it?
Yep. You're going to have me seeing patterns in everything I look at until I go to bed. This is...
Exactly. So Trump runs all by this knowledge, okay? He does everything to the sky, okay? If you want to see that as evil, whatever, it's not, okay? It's just, that's how this world works, okay? If whether you believe it or not, it doesn't matter. That's how they run, exactly like what you said before. Now, if you notice the pink triangle that's upside down, what is that? That's actually the symbol for hydrogen, and with the phi line. So from St. Louis up to Winnipeg is the phi line, okay? Because everything goes to phi in golden ratio. That's why the whole universe is golden ratio, okay? Fibonacci, because it's all to do with frequency and sound and shapes
and mathematics.
Yeah, and sematics, okay? Because every shape creates, or every sound creates a shape, okay? That's why all through the churches, all the windows, the stained glass windows, are all the exactly same shape as the residents in that church, okay? So this is ancient knowledge, okay? So now they created the phi line between St. Louis and Winnipeg. Now, if you go to Winnipeg, there's this huge building there called the Legislature Building, and they have this golden boy on top of it, okay? And he has wings. Well, that's ascension. That's what Jesus was teaching. Now, what's interesting is, it's a big Freemason. The Freemasons built it, basically, architect. But he's looking north. He looks, the golden boy on top of that building looks north, and he's looking to the crown, okay, up in the sky, which is up north of Canada, up to Leopold Island, which is the crown, which is the Pleiades. Okay, so they did that. It's amazing what they did. It just fascinates me. So the black line, yeah, it's amazing. It's like they're brilliant, you know.
This is amazing. So, when they built the church structure, they must have known what its resonant frequency was going to be before they built it, so that they could control the resonant frequency. This is getting very strange, Crystal. Loving it, though.
Yeah. Because they most churches, like the Notre Dame Church, and that, you know, that they created that ritual with the fire last year or whatever. Before that, it was like pagan church. There was a pagan church that was there. And before that, it was just a circle where people gathered because it was a ley line vortex energy. So every single cathedral is built on a ley line because it creates a frequency And so the emotions that happen in that church go into the water lines. And also creates a sound. Exactly. So it's fascinating that they create the shapes and put it up in the windows. Like, it's just amazing.
And we're talking here about psychic phenomena, are we not?
Yeah, I guess it's like, because you're going to feel more spiritual because you're connecting to a frequency that could enlighten you or connect you, to other humans or whatever. It's like that is a spiritual location. That's what spiritual locations are. They're mainly built on ley lines to give some type of energy.
Now I understand why you were talking about. Sorry, I just lost the thought. I was doing something else.
It's okay. Okay, so now we continue. We go across from Washington. We've got St. Louis, which is Taurus. Then we have all the way to San Francisco. We have the Golden Gate. Okay, and that I told you is the yellow egg on the Milky Way, which is the tip of the spear. Why Trump has the tip of the spear on his logo with his hand correct. He's basically the arrow of Sagittarius. And the reason that is that the story in the sky, when it's time to come to the end of the great year, what the founding fathers knew when it was going to happen, okay? And they created all this so that when it's your time to go through that fight, okay, you have to go to the Golden Gate. You have to take your spear. There's a little bag there with arrows. You take your shield, which is behind Sagittarius. You put your armor on, and you fight the dragon. Now, who's the dragon? The dragon is Scorpio. It's in Chinese constellation. It's actually a big giant dragon, but it's you have to fight the dragon with the reptile, whatever you want to call it, the snake, and you have to be able to take control of the snake so the snake doesn't kill you. Okay, so that's why you have, like, on the caduceus, the medical symbol, there's two snakes. One's up, one's down. One either heals you or the other one basically kills you. It's so there's a duality to the snake symbolism as well. Most people think, the snake is evil. Well, yeah, but the snake also will bring you to a higher realm of enlightenment or ascension. So that's what I'm saying. Like, watch how you react to symbols, because you could be programming your subconscious into the wrong path.
Yes, mindfulness is absolutely critical when you're dealing with subjects like this. The occult is not something to be trifled with, that much is sure.
Yeah, exactly. So here we have the black line, and then it goes up like the level or whatever, the corner level that they use. And it goes up to Vancouver, which is where the Lion's Gate is. Okay, so these three gates in the sky, the Silver Gate, St. Louis, Golden Gate, San Francisco, and the Lion's Gate. The reason why they're so important is because Venus and Mercury conjunctions with the sun happen in these locations in the sky repetitively, more so than any other place in the sky. Okay, so it all goes back to Venus again. Okay, because Venus is really important. She's our twin planet. And she's the female goddess. It's the divine feminine energy that has been suppressed on this planet. Okay, all women have been suppressed. It's not because people can say, oh, it's like that's the liberalism or that's the left, wanting women to. It goes deeper than that. The divine feminine has been suppressed on this planet. There was cultures where women, like the Amazon women, whether it's mythos or whatever, they were the rulers and the men were the weaker, subservient. Okay, so that got all suppressed on this planet. Okay, so it's like the female energy and the male energy. It's like there's a duality going on, and now it's time to connect the two so that we can be the twin, the left and right part of us, which is our left and right brain. It's the only way you can ascend or get to the heavenly place with Jesus is if your left and right brain hemisync to get to theta for enlightenment. Okay, so it's all like a ritual to that. All this was built as a ritual to this duality of left and right. Okay.
I'll be right back. I've got to disappear for about 60 seconds, but I'll be back pronto.
Okay. So the Lions Gate is in Vancouver. The actual Queen Victoria came to do the opening ceremony there. So like you can see that this was a very important ritual with her being there as well. Now, I also wanted to talk about this upside down triangle, the pink triangle, which the phi line is. It's actually hydrogen, which is water. Okay, so that's actually the alchemic symbol for water is the upside down triangle. When it has a line running through it horizontally, it is like earth, but this is really the water symbol. The water symbol is really important. It relates to obviously different zodiacs, but it's basically we are water, right? In the ley lines, and so there's always it always goes back to water and memory. There's in ancient Greek, there's a river called Mimosin. Mimosin. It's like Nemo. The movie Nemo is relating to that. It's spelled it has an M in front of it, so it's like M Nemo Sin. Okay, and that relates to memory. Okay, now when you ascend, you get to keep your memory. When you don't ascend, your memory gets wiped with the green river, Leth. Okay, that's all through our mythos. So there's two rivers. One keeps you your memory. The other one loses your memory. So that's also in the sky. We can go to that too. But and then the little map down here. This is part of I found a little map there. It goes from New York. Doesn't go all the way to Boston, but you can see there's a ley line, and then you can see the pivotal point. There's two ley lines. One's the serpent, where the serpent mounds go through. So there's a mountain called Pilot Mountain. So that must be a very sacred place that most Native Americans probably were using. When the Native Americans know the sacred places, and it's definitely all to do with the ley lines. So I'm going to see if I can pull up. I do have some interesting screenshots of the sky when the founding fathers created the U.S. founding date, okay, because they were doing a ritual to the sky on that date.
Okay, when you drop that, I'll maximize it for the folks playing out on YouTube.
Okay, so yeah.
Anyway, we haven't even gotten to the really interesting part of why you came on this evening. Do you want to move right along, or are you happy to continue at this pace? Because we've got more than an hour and a half ahead of us. What would you like to do, Crystal? How would you like to proceed?
Well, I think I'll do these screenshots of the founding date because that gives people a visual, and I think sometimes when I'm just talking, people need the visuals. So I'll do that, and so then you can really start to see what the constellations really look like, and what they represent and stuff.
Gotcha. So the big question I have for you, Crystal, is: are we all going to die because a rock's going to hit us?
No. The comets, I think, are more about pulling energy into us, like from the sun. If anything, my understanding is we'll get maybe a CME off the sun radiation. There's certain things that I've been listening to the Sky Watchers, and they're like, the comets, nah, they're not going to hit us, but we do have to go maybe through some of their debris, and that debris could have like dust, because the comets have a dust tail and a gas tail, like they have like a V tail, and so so that could be part of what we might see is the dust. Okay. Now, I also was listening to a Skywatcher, and they were talking about a supernova. Supernovas create cooling on the planet and a big, huge amount of dust. And then I was like, is that what they're going to do by, the sun is going to have a sackcloth over it, because that's biblical? They have to have all the prophecies, running. Okay. It's like, whether they know it and they have a future, looking glass, and they know that's how they wrote the Bible, or, they're just making it happen as we go along. I don't know. But what the key is, all I know is they're making everything happen. This coronavirus is the plague in the Bible, it's called the corona for a reason, because it's the crown of your ascension. And so the comets, we have a Swan comet, which is really funny. The Swan comet, and we have the Atlas comet. It's the two pass. Okay, so, and it's no coincidence that they coming into Taurus. it's a big joke for me. One is above Taurus and one is below Taurus, and they're all aligning with Mercury. I have to find you that screenshot. That's crazy. Like, this is all happening next month. It's like, it's nuts.
I'm looking forward to this. So I only just made the mental leap there. It's not just one rock, is it? It's a whole cloud of cosmic debris. So even if we cop a near miss from the big one, we might have to pass through the cloud that the comet is a part of. I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah, and it's not, because the Atlas has broken up, so it's not one big giant thing. They can do all different things. They can break up and then turn into 20 different comets. They can, just disintegrate. They can just have dust. We don't know. Like, that's the thing. It's a bit of a Russian roulette. But all I know from my research is that they happen when Saturn and Jupiter are in conjunction, which is happening on the winter solstice. And I've mapped this out. It's never happened in 2,500 years. Okay, which is like as far back as I can go. That we have a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on the winter solstice, which is basically every ancient site aligns to, with Uranus, heaven, in Aries and Taurus, like in that location, that ritual location that is so important. Okay, it's never happened in 2,500 years, and it's happening this year. And so I am pretty convinced this winter solstice is what the founding fathers were mapping everything to. I can go into the numbers and all that, but what's fascinating, the thing is, I really thought it was going to happen in 2024, and because of the two eclipses going across the United States, I'm like, oh, they got to get the two eclipses, it's got to cross St. Louis, that's all part of the ritual, they knew it was coming, blah, blah, blah. And then they have, the zip code of Washington, D.C. is 20024. And I'm like, it's all coded. Yeah, for sure. It's, it's going to happen in the year 2024. And then I started looking into the Kepler trigens. Okay, Kepler, it was all because, I'm rambling now, but Kepler, they just discovered 2 days ago or 3 days ago that the Kepler planet can hold life. Like they were sitting on the fence with it, right? So I'm like, Kepler planet. There's this planet that can hold life. I wonder who Kepler was. So I started doing the research on it. Oh my God, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. Basically, Kepler was, an astrologer. He was a mathematician, and he was deciphering the Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions. Okay, so he was, trying to figure out the importance of these conjunctions, and the reason is because it pulls comets into our universe, into our
Very nice catch. Thank you. So that explains
yeah. So
Taurus and was it Aries?
yeah.
So the actual plane of our galaxy, and we're rotating around the sun, and then we're looking at long orbit comets that don't have a flat disc-shaped orbit to them. This is pretty amazing.
Yeah, so basically, okay, so that is why I kind of like went, oh my God, it's this year, because I didn't understand at the point of, like the physicality of what Saturn and Jupiter mean. And then I started getting into like, oh my God, why was he obsessed with mapping these things? And when I looked into his research, he had written this manuscript all in Latin that every single astrologer it's like their Bible, okay? And he had it all coded to the Bible, okay? But they wouldn't let him publish it. And the reason was because he had the birth of Christ off of what the church was saying. And I did my last video I did, it's an hour and a half long. It explains it all in there. It basically, he had it so that it was Jesus Christ's birth was on a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction year, okay, which would be 6 BC, because I'm convinced it's because it pulled a comet into our visual, and that is the Star of Bethlehem. Okay, Star of Bethlehem is most likely a comet.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's why he had it all coded. So basically, these conjunctions, okay, they're called trigens because every time there's a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, it's a point. But it creates the Star of David, okay? And that's the fact that these create the Star of David is like mind-blowing, okay? It's like, and this happens, I have to get my math right now. This happens over 883 years. There's like 41 of them that create this. And that I had to figure out all mathematically, and I went into Stellarium and actually did the actual math from the visual because I couldn't find the information. Everybody has the information at a different number when I was researching it, but I got the actual, and I figured out the mathematical equation with these conjunctions to Uranus's cycles, okay? Because it all has to code to the great year. The great year is 25,920 years. So what I figured out was Uranus they don't create it by 12 cycles. Uranus is the outer planet, right? It's one of the slow planets. It goes around 10 times, not 12. It goes around actually 309 times in one of these great years. Now, the reason that's so important is because its synodic orbit is 369. And it's the key to the universe. It's basically the key to the universe because it creates, I ended up doing the math. I divided 963 and it brought me to the 33 cycles that Venus makes and always ends up in Taurus. Okay, so it's a big mathematical equation that brings Venus back to Taurus that lines up with Uranus conjunctions in Taurus and Aries, like around that, well, mostly Taurus, but sometimes it's like this year it's going into Aries, which is just like a little midget off, and that has to do with the precession. It's actually better because it's the crown. And then the Venus conjunctions with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. There's a mathematical equation, and I figured it out. It's like, I couldn't believe I figured it out. I was like, how did I do that? But I did it, anyhow.
Wow. So we're either looking, if I can just broaden the discussion a little bit, we're either looking at absolutely phenomenally amazing clockwork, or was it built? I've heard many arguments, both pro and anti this idea. What do you think, Crystal?
I think that there's a cycle in the sky that's inevitable. I think the Templars found this out from ancient Egyptian, knowledge, and they that's why they were so obsessed. Like the Crusades, they were trying to get this knowledge. They wanted to know the knowledge so they could warn people. They created the United States as the freedom country because it's not freedom just from the Brits, it's freedom of your soul. And they mapped it all out through the cities so people could awaken to it. But it's not, they created, the sky has to be the first link, okay? It's not like, oh, this, they had to know the math. And, Rittenhouse, who was Benjamin Franklin and Robert Morris's friend, and he was the mathematical genius that didn't go to academic school, created a clock that showed all the planets in orbit. It's a beautiful clock. It's all made out of brass. And he aligned everything, and then they created the United States around the alignments. That the United States is definitely created like that. There's actually a pentagram in England as well. I've done research on that. It ends up going a little bit from Wales into southern England, and there's a pentagram there, but it's not as good as the one that they created in the United States.
Yes, the American one was really quite precise, given the size of the actual geoglyph or whatever you want to call it. I've got a question for you, Crystal. Let me figure this out because it's quite a complicated idea. Are we looking at emerging science from older civilization, emerging knowledge, or are we looking at leftover knowledge from our progenitors, Aboriginal peoples? Are we looking at their knowledge, or are we looking at the emergence of science?
Well, I think originally when Kepler discovered this science and he was trying to relate it to the Bible, that's when they cut him off, right? So what I'm saying is, what my gnosis, my path of gnosis, it doesn't have to be anybody else's, but this is my gnosis path, and that's what this is about. This is about your own spiritual awakening to this knowledge so that you create your own path. And I can tell you what your path is. I know how to map out your own path in the sky because it has to do with your Saturn returns. And you came here for a purpose, and I can tell you what your purpose is, and I can tell you whether you're going to achieve it, okay? Because it's all in the sky. But my own understanding, and my zodiac points out that I would know this knowledge in my later life, okay, which blows my mind because I was always kind of curious about it, but never had the ability to understand it. But yeah, this whole gnosis knowledge is really about merging science and spirituality to the cosmos through understanding how to grow nature, because it's all done through the planets. That's why we still have moon cycles, you're supposed to plant on this day. Well, it's because everything grows, everything gets created through this knowledge. Okay, it's divine, and science and spirituality are the same, but they keep telling us it's separate. It's the same as saying our health is separate from our mind. It's bullshit. It's sorry, excuse my language, but it's not. The way you think creates your health. Okay, so everything is being separated and making us think we're not whole. But the saddest part is spirituality is math. Okay, because the numbers are divine. 9/11 is divine. Okay, this July 4th is divine. It was Christ's birthday, most likely. Okay, so and these patterns make shapes, make sound, makes math. That's what I'm saying. It's all connected.
Wow, so it's a little bit of both. That was very well answered, actually. Um, so it could be emerging science and leftover knowledge. It could be both of the same thing at once.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going through. We're going through this, pulling away the veil and understanding. Our spirituality is connected to the earth. Is connected to science. It's connected to everything, and from that we can create a new world in using this knowledge to create optimum health, to create optimal amounts of food growing for all. It's like a whole rebirth. And once we were, this knowledge was hidden from us, but it was hidden. I see it kind of like you need dark to find the light. We needed to hit the bottom of humanity to be able to say, whoa, okay, we're not following anymore. We're taking back our rights. And by doing that, hopefully you will find your gnosis path and your spirituality. Because basically, my understanding of spirituality is to believe that the universe is in charge, okay, is to believe that everything happens for a reason, and your job is to keep the energy on this planet in a higher state. Your job is not to freak out about everything, get stressed out, get angry. It's not your job. Your job is to bring the energy up on this planet. So that's why I'm saying this movement that we're in, you can get sucked into the wrong path. Okay, so hopefully, if you see it from a bigger perspective, is that this whole, awakening and, the Q movement is really about just shaking us out of our sleep. It's not about only about taking down the bad people, because there has to be more than just revenge, right? It's not about revenge. This is about our own spiritual awakening. And at one point, you have to put the revenge down, and you have to grow from the knowledge that you've obtained through the movement. That's where I'm trying to bring people to, is just to get out of this like hate and fear and is because it's like you're stuck in the trap again. Left and right is a trap. Okay, you have to be in purple, or if you want to see it as dark and light, you have to be in the twilights. You can't be one or the other, because you're creating the duality of the magnet. You want to be in the center.
I think any future that doesn't include psychic alien pain parasites is a good one. And as regards the kind of knowledge you have, more knowledge is always better. The more information you have, you can cross-reference it with other pieces of information, and it'll show you insights into things you hadn't imagined before. This is going rather well, Crystal. Thank you.
Oh, great. I'm glad. It's like, yeah, for me, it's like very exciting. It's like I always knew there was more. I always knew there was something to get really passionate about, rather than just building my own life. And I never could find out what it was. I was like, fight this, fight that. It's like, but this is like, it's almost, to me, it's like it's magical, not in like a magical, like weird way, but in a magical, divine way, where I feel so like at peace and so connected because of the knowing. Once you know, there's nothing to fear, because there's nothing that can stop this. Okay, it's happening if you don't believe it or you do believe it, and you think it's not about this. It doesn't matter what you believe, it's happening. Okay, because it's part of the cosmic wheel in the sky. You're either on the train or you're jumping off the train. Okay, so it's like it's really about understanding that we've all lived through this before. Some part of our psychic, DNA has experienced this before. Some people want to go through it and go to that next level. Some people don't. And you have to accept that some people aren't ready to go to this newer, higher level. They're quite happy in the material world.
Yeah, I understand your comment earlier about semantics. It really does come down to what words you put on the ideas themselves. I think that a lot of these ideas, pretty much everyone can get on board with them, but we have to use the right kind of language to appeal to the broadest possible cross spectrum. But semantics is devilish, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, everything can be used for good or evil. Okay? And and even your emotions is what's feeding the good and evil. So when you're personally in a state of distress or anxiety or anger or revenge, you are part of the problem. You are creating an energy on this gridlock system that is negative. Whether it's from good intention or not, doesn't matter. It's a negative emotion. So once you can control your own inner reaction to something, okay, so your first reaction, was like when I first started learning about symbols, I was like, it's all evil. I don't want to watch TV anymore. But now I'm like, I'm quite happy to watch TV and watch I was watching Outlander, and then, they put the camera to the dragonfly in the amber, and then they fanned it over on the battlefield to the little bunny rabbit hopping into the screen. I was like, oh, there's a 2-pass. Well, they're just giving us the 2-pass. Okay, well, pick your choice. But you have to be awakened to what you're watching. To not know it is bad, but to see it only as evil is just as bad, because it's putting you in a fear mode. So you need to see it and go, oh, that's that path. Okay, I'm on that side. Okay, that's the other one. Oh, well, they showed us. They let us know. Oh, well, I'm quite happy. I'm grateful for that, because it's like, it's just reconfirming what I know. If I can watch TV and see it, I'm like, oh, this is happening. They're telling us all the time it's going to happen. So, and then you can say, are we creating it to happen? Maybe we are. Maybe by me believing that we're coming into the age of enlightenment is making it happen. Maybe if we all believe that, we would go there. I don't know, but I think somehow we're part of the solution and part of the problem. Yeah. Like, we're responsible.
You hit an absolutely perfect point there that I have to explain to many people. We can't go seeking revenge. Revenge is just not in our purview. We'll leave that up to the higher powers. But we cannot become that which we hate, which means no fear, no anger, no revenge. We've got to show as much mercy as we can possibly afford to under the circumstances, I think.
Exactly. And it's hard, this movement has created a lot of revenge. And we need to pull past out of it now. It's time. It's like,
as a species, we've hit a certain point that there's no coming back from. We've hit critical mass as a species. And like you said, not everyone's going to get to ascend. Probably virtually no one, except for maybe a handful of people. And that's just the way it works, I guess. Comms test, are you still with us, Crystal? Okay, Crystal's been going for a while. Should I play this song? I will. I think we'll have a music break.
Oh, so sorry, I got booted out.
We've actually got a song playing at the moment, Crystal. Can you wait 2.5 minutes, please?
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No, sorry, my computer just shut down. I have no idea why. It just logged out. Weird.
Okie dokes, the music's over. Would you like to continue, Crystal? And
Okay, yes.
Oh, we've got Scope with us as well. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, good morning, everyone. Glad to be here and be listening. Interesting, very interesting stuff. So happy I'm here today.
And it sounds like we've got plenty more. Crystal hasn't even gotten to the interesting bits and pieces yet. Are you good to go, Crystal, or would you like a short break with a song or anything I can do for you?
No, I'm fine. I'm just kind of ad-libbing it. I just like, there's so much of this information. I could go on for days. It's just like, I'm just trying to get, the base so that we can kind of understand stuff, and what the founding fathers did for us. And it's so magical, what they basically did. I don't know if anybody knows the hypothesis of Washington painting. Does anybody have a clear understanding of what that is? Probably not, right? It's like I should really try to pull that up. But anyhow, what I wanted to do here is I wanted to show the date. Like, what's funny about the founding father date? First of all, it has to do with the cycles. If you go up here, they showed a few of the cycles. It's the cycle when, so the July 4th founding day of the United States. Okay, so they had it so these Saturn-Jupiter conjunctions create this trident, so create this triangle, and then shift. But the very one in 244 BC was on 9/11. It was in Aquarius. Now Aquarius is basically the golden age of Aquarius. We all know that song. But it also represents with Capricorn, because there's some cultures that combine two zodiacs together. It represents the United States, North America. Aquarius and Capricorn together, in that sense, is the United States. Okay, so it's interesting that they said he mapped it out backwards. This was Kepler, and then what was interesting was Uranus was in Taurus on the Pleiades. Remember I said how important the Pleiades are, and that's the Silver Gate, that's St. Louis. That was in 244 BC. Now, if you take this year and you minus 244, it brings you to the founding date of the United States. Okay, so that's why I'm pretty convinced it's this year. The other thing is that they created the founding United States because of Venus. Venus always being, often in Taurus, because Venus represents Taurus and Gemini. Gemini being the twins, the twin towers. Those two zodiacs together represent Venus. Okay, so where was I going with this? Yeah, so Venus. There was this Venus transit, which is really rare. Basically, when, like I said before, when Venus goes in front of the sun or behind the sun, there was this Venus transit in 1639. Okay, so the astronomers back then were really fascinated by it. They were mapping it, and this is how they learned the sky. They would have to go and watch it move, and they'd have to measure it because they didn't have a computer. And so that's why they always have the compass, the Freemasons, because they're mapping the sky with little degrees and stuff so they could understand the mathematics of the planets. Now, what's crazy is 1639, it happened on July 4th. Okay? So it happened on July 4th. Exactly 1639 months later is the founding day of the United States. So they mapped it forward, and they've mapped this year's date backwards. That's why I'm convinced it's happening this year, because it's too mathematically perfect, okay? So, especially with this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on the winter solstice that's never happened before, with heaven being, on the crown, on the corona. It's never happened before. I went back and it's just mathematically, it's impossible for it to have happened. Okay. And I did go back really far.
Okay. So we're looking at a manipulation of magic using geomancy and other forms of magic as well. And what amazes me at this point is that these people must plan in centuries at the very least.
Yeah, they plan in centuries because it all has to go around Uranus, okay, and Neptune. The reason is, okay, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto represent our higher consciousness. Okay, they one is imagination, one is subconscious, and Neptune is imagination, Pluto is subconscious, and Uranus is conscious mind. Okay, so there's a spiritual aspect to these outer planets that take so long to complete an orbit. Like, you wouldn't have a return in your lifetime of Uranus because it's you might have one because it's 83 years. Okay, it's the same as like Pluto. Pluto's like 243 years. You're not going to have a return. Okay, it's not going to come back around when you're alive. Okay, so these are like not part of your physicality because you're going to be dead before it comes around. They're part of your higher consciousness. Okay, so this is why it's all mapped out to that. But it's not magic to say it's evil. It's magic to help humanity reach higher consciousness. Okay, this is what the founding fathers did. They want us to be able to become free of this belief that we're only material. Okay, we're going into a higher realm of consciousness on this planet. That is what's happening right now. Okay, so this founding date, they didn't, if you go into the history books and you try to find the time that they signed the Declaration of Independence, there's no time. Like, they've scrubbed it. Okay, so who the hell knows what time they signed it? And the reason that they scrubbed it, I'm pretty convinced, is because something was happening in the sky at different times in the day on that day that there's a ritual going on to. Okay, so if you pull up here a little further at 133. Now, the reason 1333 is so important, if you go into mathematics and you do a 24 tetrahedron star number, it correlates to the number 1333. Okay, so it's the 24 star number, which, we're back to why Washington is, the zip code's 24, and it's just crazy. It goes on and on. The two eclipses that go across the United States, the one was in 2017 and the one's in 2024, and they're both crossing at St. Louis and the Silver Gate. There's exactly 2424 days in between those two eclipses. Okay? 2424 days means Iessos in Hebrew, which means Jesus. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. It's like it gets to become like, oh my God, this is impossible for it to not mean something because it's too mathematically divine. They didn't create.
We haven't imposed a synthetic structure on top of these things. That's not what we're doing here at all. These things have a structure that we're trying our best to understand. Would that be true?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing synthetic about it because it's in the sky. And how can you say, oh, the Cabal created the two eclipses coming across the United States, and they created it to that number, and that's the ritual number? Well, no, it's not logical. It's happening, and it's creating the fact that it's relating to the Bible. How do they know that? When you Google Isis in Hebrew means Jesus, it comes up to the text is 2424. Okay, so it's divine and it's being coded into the Bible. So the Bible is coded to the sky. Okay, that's where people go, they don't want to hear it. But sorry, it is. It whether you want to know it or not, it is. It is. It just is.
I want to know it specifically because it makes people go, eek! That's the kind of information I want to know about, that's for sure.
Yeah, so this is where it gets really mind-blowing, okay? This winter solstice that they've coded everything to is exactly half of 2424. It's 12 days between the two eclipses.
You've done your homework, Crystal. This is impressive.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy because, thank you. It's crazy because, I was so convinced it was going to happen in 2424. But then when I discovered the importance of the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions with Kepler, all because I just wanted to research his name. And I was like, it brought me to this whole other part because I had... If you go back in my videos, you can see them. I knew that Venus was all part of it. I knew Taurus was. I knew the eclipse was, creating the X. I knew how they'd mapped it all out on the. But the date, I was off because I didn't have this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction part of it, which is the Star of David. I never knew where the Star of David was in the sky. And then when it presented that that's the Star of David, I was like, oh my God, this is super important. I better really map this backwards to find out, what Kepler was trying to publish that they wouldn't let him publish about the Bible. And it's about the date of Jesus Christ. That's what it is. And it's all about 9/11 and July 4th. It's all coded through those conjunctions. So it's just like, it's just so divine that it's impossible for it to not happen this year. I just can't see it not happening because it's like, it's too mathematically perfect. You can't argue with math.
You can't. You just don't get very far. And to think that you just put another time scale. You just put another time scale onto the Q plan. We're not talking about thousands of years or hundreds of years. We're talking about thousands and thousands of years of history. And it all comes down to Q plan and a giant asteroid. And it gets really bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. So what's going to be the catalyst to create the biblical prophecy, is kind of where my head goes. And, I know that they have to have dust. The dust is part of it. It's in the Wizard of Oz movie, how she falls asleep in the snow, the poppy field, and then she goes down the yellow brick road. That whole symbolism has to do that whenever they talk about snow or they're talking about the dust basically, and so I think there's going to be a catalyst that is going to create this dust across the sun, because in the Bible they say there's going to be the sackcloth across the sun, so there has to be something that creates dust and it's going to create darkness. And what's interesting about our physicality through darkness, if you are in dark for more than 10 days, which is what the native people would do. They go in these caves and they take psychotics that to create their spiritual experiment. They were trying to experience the spirituality through darkness and, taking wasaka and stuff. The thing is, if you just naturally put yourself in dark for 10 days, you start to create a ton of DMT in your brain, and it will put you into a theta state. Now, if you're in theta state through syncing your left and right brains, you can do that through sound. You can do that by listening to binary beats and stuff, which I do a lot of. And it gets you to a point where you're just really peaceful, and you start to connect to information that you don't know how you're getting that. It's like all of a sudden, like I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be like, oh, you need to go research this. It's not like a demon in my head. It's just basically telling me, oh, you should really pay attention to that. And so then, your instinct goes, okay, I'll go research it. And then all of a sudden it leads you down a path and you're like, wow, this is like opening up my understanding. And that is really important. When you can get your brain to go to theta state, you can never be depressed. It's a scientific fact. You cannot be depressed. Okay. So if you're not depressed, your thoughts are positive. If your thoughts are positive, you're adding to this world instead of, pulling the energy down. You're able to help other people. And that is what this is all about. It's really fascinating. It's all about us.
I can throw in a few bits and pieces there. Drugs like DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and ayahuasca, they can actually push brain function to 95 or hertz or higher. 95 to 110 hertz is possible for peak points during a psychedelic experience. So that's got to be doing something, right?
Yeah, I think so. You got to understand, I never went to university. I never, I have grade 9 math. Okay. Why all this stuff is coming to me is, to me, divine, because I'm like, how the heck is a person like me that I'm not I don't have any background in any of this, understanding planet cycles, and I'm not an astrophysicist, but it's, for some reason, it's just like the connections are happening, and they just keep happening and happening and happening. And I'm assuming it's from all these practices that I'm doing to help myself, not get stressed out with what's going on in the world. And that's really where I came into it all, was I just wanted knowledge so I could be calm. And some people say to me, oh, you're not supposed to know the date because it's going to make you scared. Well, actually, for me, it's the opposite. To know the date makes me really peaceful, because for me, I don't like the not knowing. I like to know, and then I can deal with it. But this not knowing and everything kind of being like, just like, who the heck knows? Are we going to have food, or what's going to happen? I don't like that. I like to have a plan and kind of prepare myself mentally, and then I can feel like I'm, in a sense of being able to control my own emotions, not control what's happening, but control myself. And so that's why I'm so interested in, but they did code it all to this date. That's what I'm saying. If nothing happens, well, I'll just be healthier for it. But I'm not saying it's, it has to happen, but I'm just saying it's coded to this date.
And there's more than a few people that agree with you, Crystal. I for one, am one of them. I'm waiting for, I think it's early spring, for this Atlas comet to become visible in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, and then we have the Swan comet. Did I post that yet? No, I didn't post that. I'll have to get that clip. So these are really important. And the fact that they're all around the Taurus constellation is really important. Now, this is the founding. I wanted to show you this because this last picture I put up here, you have Aquarius and Capricorn right on the horizon at 777. Okay, that's when Trump was inaugurated, right? On his 70th birthday, 7th day. I don't know. It was 777. So, and you see the moon is right between Capricorn and Aquarius. What's so funny, I just wanted to tell you this, guy. This will be funny. That moon is on the star called Nasara. It means Wheel of Fortune. It's like the game show.
Wheel of Fortune. Yay!
Exactly, and there's no coincidences why they call that show Wheel of Fortune, because the moon is really symbolic because it moves around so fast, and its placement is really related to Venus. Okay, Venus and the moon, there's a big relationship there. It's feminine energy. Okay, the moon. So now, if you notice, right at the W at the west, east and west is really important, right? What's going on in the sky, on the horizon. And it's the heliacal rising is at the east. And that has to do with, when you're born, whatever's coming up on the horizon at the time that you're born is your ascendant sign, which basically is your personality. Okay? So here on the west, which is the descendant, is the eagle, which is the symbolism of the United States. And it has a pin in its mouth. Now, my theory is on this pin it's the Q, okay? The Q is the pin. If you go into Arabic etymology, the Q, it's Q-U-O-P, I think, quap letter. It means a needle in the back of your neck. So the Q is the harvest path. Okay. Now, did Trump take over the Q to make it a good thing? So it's not, because they put JFK in a Q, right? And they took his flame and they put it. It's like they've locked down his flame. The flame is basically your phoenix. Your phoenix is your flame. It's your soul. Okay, that's the symbolism of the phoenix. So people think the phoenix is evil. Well, that's basically you saying your soul's evil. If you think the phoenix is evil, you're saying your soul is evil. It's crazy. That's what I'm saying. Be careful what you believe. And then the swan. Okay, the swan is upside down. That's the Christ of the cross of Christ. It's the Northern Cross in the sky. Is it funny we have a swan comet coming in? A Taurus? Isn't that funny when that's the cross of Jesus Christ?
This is all a little spooky, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's in, it was all there in the sky on the founding at 777. And the one up above where it was at 1:33, because we don't know the time of the day that they signed it, or, maybe we're not supposed to know because there's so many things that was happening in the sky. Right on the east, which is the heliacal rising, we have the Virgin Mary, which is Venus, Virgo, and we have Juno in her belly. The Juno Awards, Canadian Juno Awards, that has to do with the birthing of the nation, the Juno, the baby coming out of her. Juno happens to be in the same location this year on the winter solstice, in the belly, okay, of Virgo. What's the chances of that? And Saturn is there. Saturn is the age. That's the age we're going into. We're going into the Saturn age. We're going out of the Jupiter age. Okay, so this winter solstice, the conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, they're right on top of each other, like jammed on top. It's happening in Capricorn. So the power of Saturn is in his own sign. So in that conjunction, Saturn wins. Saturn, what is Saturn? I know people think it's the black cube and it's evil and all this. No, Saturn is the age of the golden age. He's the keeper of time. Yes.
Question from chat. Zach Coker says, does the bear represent Russia like the eagle represents the USA?
The bear represents, I don't know, like in the countries maybe, but I know from the bear in Native American, it's fertility. It's part of the Queen of Heaven. It's part of the MAGA Mother, because the MAGA Mother and the bear symbolism has to do with fertility. The fertility it gets complicated because it's also the bees. the whole thing about the harvest, harvesting humanity, what are they harvesting off of us? They're harvesting our souls. They're also harvesting phosphorus. I know that sounds crazy, but what creates phosphorus? If you go do your research, it's urine. Okay, urine is what I believe they're going to be harvesting out of humans. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but it's all through the mythos and it's through science that it creates phosphorus. Why is phosphorus so important? It creates the god's nectar that these beings need to keep them ageless. And I think what phosphorus is doing, it's activating DNA. It's putting DNA to a higher function. I know that's a little out there. I know people are going to go, she lost me. But that's basically what's going on. So the whole symbolism of going to the tree and being part of the tree, it means that you either go in the fig. When the Bible, they call it the pomegranate, but it's actually the fig tree. You either go in the fig, and what happens when a wasp goes into a fig? If you go into the male one, I believe, you lose your wings, or the female one, you lose your wings, and the male fig, you keep your wings. That's how it is. So you either become part of the tree, and the tree eats you, and you become part of the harvest, or you get to keep your wings and you eat from the tree, and you go to the tree and then you leave. Okay.
They can have my urine, but I think I'll hang on to my soul. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
I have a question.
Sure.
We spoke of the comets approaching us. It reminded me of something I recently saw on Mr. MBB333, where he says that there are 3 more comets coming our way, and they are from the McHoltz family.
Oh, I don't know about that. All I know is that there's one called Pan-STARRS, there's one called Swan, and here I have it here, and there's one called Atlas. There's the Two-Peak Inky is also in the same location. So there's a lot going on, like beginning of June, end of May. And then I guess what happened.
I'm going to drop the link for you so you know the tag you so you can watch it after the show.
Okay, thank you. I think it's not so much what's happening this spring. It's more about what they're going to leave and then what we have to pass through. It's not like they're going to come and hit us. They're not close enough to us to hit us. But they could break up, and then we've got to pass through their stuff. And is their stuff going to be dust? Is it going to be just pieces? We don't know. But it's more, to me, it's like what energies that they're going to do to the sun, because they're very close to the sun, and they're very close to, I think it is in conjunction with Venus and stuff. And like, are they doing something there? And then that energies are coming towards us. That's where I'm more at with it all. Yeah.
Do you need a break, Crystal, or are you happy to keep talking? Because this is pretty good.
No, I'm good. So here we have June 9th, which, no coincidence, it's a 6 and a 9. Okay, 6 and a 9 is actually Cancer zodiac. It represents the top of the archway in Freemasonry. If you look at the archway, it's always Cancers on their top. Cancer represents the manger of Christ. It has a thing called, on the Cancer constellation, called the Beehive Cluster. And that is really important, like when things land on there. That's always around the end of July, is when the sun is there. So anyhow, the 6 and 9 is super important, and it's really fascinating. This is when you get into divine, the dates matching up with the symbolism. So on June 9th, we have Uranus. You can see the little small circle there. Uranus is on. You can't really see all of Aries, but you see his back end is there. We also have Enki, the real Enki asteroid is on the heaven. Now, who is Enki? Well, if you don't understand Anunnaki history or Sumerian text stuff, Enki is the man goat. He is Capricorn. He is the two brothers of, the Anunnaki family. He was the one that supposedly, if you understand it from this history point of view, is that he messed with humans' DNA so that we could awaken when time was needed. His brother Enlil wants us to become cyborgs. Okay, so there's a battle going on between these two brothers. Now, it's his reign coming up, and that's why we're awakening. Okay, and his number is the number 40. We're in the year 2020. Okay, so that, and he's right on the heaven in the corona. Okay, then we have the Atlas comet that right now, okay, so you see up above here, it's hard to see, but right by Perseus, he's holding a head, and there's one star there that's in the face of the eye. That's the demon eye of the whole cosmos. That is the demon. Okay, it's Medusa's head. You look at her, you're going to turn to stone. Right now, like today's date, these two comets are on Medusa's head. And then as time moves forward, we get into June, one pulls down below the Silver Gate, because the Silver Gate is the horns of Taurus. Oh, look at that. The sun's there, and so is Venus. And there's Pleiades right on the shoulder of Taurus. This is a huge ritual going on in the sky at the beginning of June. And then we have the swan at the higher placement, which is interesting. It's the cross of Christ. It's basically representing Cygnus, the Northern Cross. So they're all aligning. Now, if you look, you can see it's all kind of aligning. Venus, Atlas, Venus, it's all one line, right? And we also have Enki. It's another comet that's called Enki. It's on the sun. So we got two Enkis. Like, this is crazy. For me, this is crazy. It's like, this is all happening. I'm like, ah!
Yeah, the whole Enki and Enlil and the 42 other Anunnaki that came down to ancient Babylon, this is where it starts getting really, really weird. But I have noticed that a lot of the information you're giving me, it correlates with other snippets and bits and pieces of information that I've found from completely different sources. So an alien proxy war on Earth sounds pretty much speed for the course at the moment. I mean, dealing with an alien proxy war is probably the least of our problems at the moment.
Well, I think it's all based on that. I think, like, they got a hold of this planet, and, they've been using us as, like how Sativa says, like, the Druids told him that we're a crop, so they've been harvesting us, and they come for the harvest every 25,920 years. And ancient, people put in hieroglyphs to warn us. That's why there's so many pictures of Taurus, the horn, the bull on these stone carvings. It's like they're telling us that they use ball salts a lot. Like at Easter Island, all the heads are made out of ball salt, and they're all they had ball salt. Yeah. Yeah, it's because it comes from it's volcano, but it's like it's magnetic. Okay, so it's magnetic, and then what did those Easter Island heads? All their bodies are buried into the ground. Do you know that?
And they've got those stones on top of their heads as well. Yeah, I mean this is amazing. It really is. So
basically, they're telling us, don't leave this earth. Stay grounded. Okay? You don't want to float. You ever watched The 100 show? Floating's not good. You don't want to be floated. Okay. The rapture, not good. It's not in the Bible. Whoever telling you it's a good thing to get floated up in the air, not good. Okay. Stay grounded. Stay in the dark. Don't go look at the friggin' stuff that's going to happen in the sky. Don't follow the sound of the sirens. There's going to be a sound. Don't follow it. Okay? That's all in mythos. Go do the Googling on the sound of the sirens and what it means. It's this beautiful voice that hypnotizes you. And they used to tie people to the ship so they wouldn't, leave their ship and follow the sirens. Okay? You don't want to follow the sirens. It's like, all I'm saying is, the reason I put all this information together is so that we kind of understand what we're supposed to do. What you don't want to do is go outside and stare at all the stuff that's going to be happening on in the sky. There's going to be like some type of plasma event. And my understanding is there will be a wind tunnel. This is why Trump said, oh, you don't want to watch the movie Parasite. You want to watch Gone with the Wind. Like he was going on about Gone with the Wind. I like Gone with the Wind. Well, I don't think that's a good thing. And he was joking about the movie Parasite. He's dropping crumbs there, so you don't want to be gone with the wind.
I have a question. I'm just wondering about these celestial bodies that may be passing by our sun at the time that you're talking about, and this cloud, and I guess some objects are ice. I guess that's what comets are, and I guess we all know what happens when ice hits heat, and if you happen to pour water into a hot pan, how it pops and bubbles, and wonder if that's something that could happen with the sun, with the event with the sun, with maybe a flare that could possibly happen. Just thinking along the science part of this.
Yeah, that's what Randall Carlson is basically saying. He's saying that there's more chance that a piece will go into the sun, and we're due for a big CME. I was listening to Sky Observers or whatever, and they were saying like a good CME happens every 1100 years, and like the last one, like we're way overdue. So that's really what I'm thinking more is going to happen. And now what will that do? It creates like a radiation charge into the planet. Is that what the energy that gets us to transcend? Because in the Bible, it's talking about your feet will turn to brass, and then you need to activate your 7 lamps, which is your 7 chakras. It's basically Kundalini. You need to be able to take that snake energy. If you want to think of plasma or energy as a snake, it's got to come up your body, and it's got to activate your higher pineal gland and open up your mind into this higher consciousness. So something has to, be the catalyst. So my understanding is that most likely it will be some type of radiation flare coming off of the sun, which causes that. Now that will most likely take the grid down, right? So we will be in darkness because there's no way that our grid is going to withstand something like that. It's not made properly to withstand something like that, probably on purpose.
And some cometary bodies can actually cause an EMP of their own when they enter the atmosphere. Sorry, go ahead, Scope.
Oh no, I was just going to say yes. They're not shielded for that magnitude of a disruption. It's impossible.
Yeah, so that's why I really do think it's going to happen more in the fall because. First of all, I think it takes time. If it's up there now by the sun, it's going to take time for it to get here. But also, we're going through the dust cloud. Will be in the fall. That's when Earth gets around to that location, heliocentrically. Like we're not in alignment right now with the comet. We have to move around, and it happens in the fall. The comets are around us all until the fall. Like they leave, I think, the end of December or whatever. So it's that, I think it's really that's the catalyst that's going to do something, is these comets. And what's fascinating is that Jupiter and Saturn pull the comets out of the Oort cloud and create them to come into. So now we've got 2 or 3. So you can see Jupiter and Saturn must be really strong in their conjunction.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, whether they're going to stop all this, they really have to follow the prophecy of the Bible. It's in our subconscious. It's in our subconscious mind that this. So many people believe in this, and so I really think, because of the belief system in the biblical prophecy, we're kind of creating it to happen at the same time. So yeah, I think it's like, I can't see it's not happening. I think in the way Trump, I don't know if I listened to him talk and I get a kick out of it, because he was talking about, having these planes fly over the cities, as I think on July 4th. And he goes, yeah, those Thunderbirds, oh man, he stops in the middle of his speech and he goes, what's your son? Is your son a pilot? Does he want to be a forever Thunderbird? Forever Thunderbird's pretty good, and being a Blue Angel's pretty good. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, those forever Thunderbirds. And I'm like, what's he talking about? He's talking about ascension. And that's why he sounds like such an idiot, because he's trying to put the ascension stuff into his conversation. It's the same thing as when he was talking about the light healing you, and you don't want to have detergent. Well, what's he talking about? He's talking about vaccines, because vaccines have the same ingredients as detergent. It's the same properties that they put in the vaccines. Or do you want the light to heal you? So, right, the choice is, we have free will. You either get vaccinated and you take the mark, because it has a nano detector in it to see whether you've taken it, or you get enlightened by light, which would be sun radiation to activate you and heal you, like he said. The light will heal you. Oh, he's telling us.
It's very interesting. I saw a picture of the flight paths of the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds, and someone set a mirror on the opposite side of the flight path, which mirrored the flight path, which created this very unique image. I don't have that post, but I'll have to go back and look at that. But the flight path, as it doubled into the other side of the mirror, created a complete picture. It was rather interesting.
Yeah, it's all coded. So once you kind of know all this knowledge, and then you listen to Trump speak, he's dropping it all the time. I remember listening to one of his speeches, and he was saying, like, oh, the soldiers, they all wanted to shake my hand. Man, there was 1,000 soldiers wanted to shake my hand, And he stops, and then he goes, 1,000, we're all going to make it for those thousands. And it didn't even make logical sense what he was saying, but I knew what he was saying. He's talking about the 1,000 years of the golden age. Okay, but once you know the gnosis knowledge, it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's everywhere, and then you start to think, like, you actually start to believe you're going nuts. That's what the problem is with having gnosis. There's a fine line where you kind of go, "What the hell am I living in?" But the more you can talk about it, and the more we can share, you realize you're not alone. And so that's why I do share all my stuff, so I didn't feel like I was just like, what the heck is going on with me? I see everything, but I can't tell anybody. They're all going to think I'm crazy. So I started the YouTube channels, and then more people can, start to connect to it and see it. And then you realize, oh, okay, other people get it too. Then you can kind of go, I'm not going crazy. This is really happening.
Hey, Crystal, would you like to drop links to your works? And if Ozanon would be kind enough, perhaps she can drop them into YouTube for you while we go. Because people need to know about this.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I'll drop my latest video was a big decode. I know they're long. Some people say, "Oh, they're so long," but to do these decodes to explain it properly, I just can't do it any shorter. And hopefully, people can just pause it and come back to it another time. I know sitting down for an hour and a half is like, who has the time? But it's more about the knowledge. It's not the practicality of what's useful, for your time schedule. Yeah, and now all the decodes are done. I've decoded pretty much, I think, everything I need to decode. So I'll just start focusing on. I want to do the natal chart of the United States to show how they even aligned the Saturn returns for the purpose of the United States. It's all coded. They basically Saturn creates your lesson. When you're born, wherever Saturn is, that's your lesson. And then 29 years later, it returns. That's your purpose in life. And then 29 years later is whether you've achieved your purpose. And so they did that to the United States to see, and we will achieve our purpose. It's all coded in the sky. So anyhow, that will be my next project. But I'll drop my last decode. It has a link to my website as well.
Excellent. Everybody check that out for Crystal, okay? She'll go into more detail on some of the subjects that have got you guys worked up so much. You got a great reaction from chat. That's awesome, Crystal.
Oh, great! I wasn't watching the chat. I'm glad because I think this information connects every soul on this planet. It doesn't matter what your religion, what your beliefs are. There's something in our memory of it, like it's in our DNA, to know that this is the true truth because it's connecting us to where we came from. Right? We came from the sky. Like when you were born, you chose, or that time when you were born has relevance to who you are. So to say, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, that means you're saying that the time that you came into this realm has no influence on you. Well, I have a hard time with that. But I think a lot of people know that it's important. Nobody knows the language of it. So you're like, oh yeah, it's important. Don't know what it means. Okay, I won't think about it. And it's very hard to find this information. You have to get bits and pieces of it. It's that, and I think it's done like that on purpose to slowly help you awaken. Because this download that I'm doing for you guys today, you're probably going to come out of it going, "What the heck was that?" But bit by bit, you'll piece the pieces together yourself, and then you'll come to the same understanding. But you need to go on your own journey to find it all.
Okay, does anyone have questions for Crystal? We've got about 10 minutes left on the clock, 10 or 15 minutes for Crystal. If she'll stick around and answer questions, that'd be fantastic. Now would be a great time to pose questions to Crystal, I guess. Are you comfortable with that, Crystal?
Yeah, sure. I love that. I'd love to hear how people, take on the information and how, because everybody, it awakens people in all different places, and it's cool. I like listening to it.
Okay, so there was a destroyed planet in between Mars and Earth. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Tiamat.
Tiamat, that's it, right. One of the dragons from Dungeons and Dragons is the name. And when and how and why and what was going on that they had to destroy a whole planet? And remembering that this would have played this would have been part of the conjunctions that you're looking at the moment.
Yeah, well, my understanding is Earth is part of Tiamat. So I don't know, it's the same as Mars. Like I think Mars had life on it at one time too, and that it was destroyed. Like and then I was listening to somebody. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember, but he was talking about how originally, like Atlantis and Lemuria, it was basically they had created like the Kabbalah tree. And there was like these nodes, and then one of the nodes was left open, and that's how these parasite nasty kind of negative beings came into this realm. They were able to jump through and get onto that node. There's vortexes in and out of here. So, I think there's one, the Bermuda Triangle is one that's wonky. It's not aligned properly. That's why things disappear. But that was my end. Like, I thought, okay, that makes sense, because back at one point, like Lemuria, everything we were functioning from this level that we're talking about, this spirituality and connection, and everything was peaceful. And then these beings came in, and I think Atlantis kind of turned part evil. And then, then the whole thing had to be wiped clean, and we started again. But you got to remember, they're following the cycle of the cosmos. So every 25,920 years, the whole thing falls. It turns. Okay, so all this enlightenment that we're going to go through, we're going up. We're on the other side of the clock now. We're going upwards. But at one point, we'll be like in Hyperborea, just like spiritual beings, and then we'll start to fall again, and we'll come back to physicality. It's a constant wheel for souls to play the game. Like, it doesn't end.
But you get to play with extra credits if you make the ascension, right?
Yeah, if you make the ascension, that's the ultimate goal for your soul, because then you get full memory of every single life that you've ever had. I know that's hard for some people that don't believe in reincarnation, but that's my understanding of it. You get full memory of who you really are. And then when the wheel moves again, you get to come in as one of the people with full memory. So if you can think of it like Trump, all the elites in the world, they have full memory of what's gone on. Okay, that's why they're elite people, and that's why they're wealthy, and because they know how to play the game. Okay, so they're not functioning on the same playing field as us. We're just like, we have no memory, so we only got like 70, 80 years to figure this out. They've had like all this time.
That's
not fair.
These people or these things or whatever you want to call them, they've been running the show for thousands of years. So I think a more likely scenario is that Trump has hijacked the conjunction, or re-hijacked it, because I think the founding fathers were they were pure of heart and had good intentions, but somewhere in between then and POTUS turning up, there's been some shenanigans that really shouldn't have gone on this planet. So that's what we're trying to escape, basically.
Yeah, so I think, the goal is to get as many souls through as possible, and then we will come back in the spring, and that's when the rain comes and cleanses the planet. So we will be going through the long winter. That's all symbolism in the Game of Thrones, hence why Trump used the poster. But yeah, so this winter is going to be the long winter. Now, there's going to be a lot of turmoil because people won't know what the heck's going on. And they'll be walking zombies, basically, because, their souls will be hijacked. It's going to be crazy, guys. I really don't think anybody has the expectation of what's going to come forth, unless you really understand the mythos and understand, some of the things that Trump's talking about. You start to see it all, and then you start to see it. Oh my God, this all has to play out. I know, like William Moon on White House Photos, I drop stuff because he really talks about ascension and stuff, and he's all his photographs, and he's confirmed a lot of stuff for me. I just tweeted to him today, is the springtime going to be the spring rain, or when everything is going to be fine? And he liked my tweet. So he just likes my stuff when I post it. So I know he kind of gives me guidance that this is for sure going down. Yeah, the Cygnus X1 song. That is one of my first wake up calls. And what's crazy is, I didn't tell you guys this. Kepler planet is right beside Cygnus X1. It's this red dawn planet that can hold life. Have no idea what's going on there. Like, are we going to be going back and forth?
Nice.
Who the heck knows? The Hopi prophecy talks about we walk between two worlds, and then I'm like, oh my god, are we going to be like time traveling to Cygnus X1? And we're going to be on this red planet, and everything's going to be perfect paradise, and then we're going to come back here and try to help the souls here. I have no idea. I just have this huge imagination, and I always just keep it open and just get excited by it. I know it sounds a bit insane, but there's too many weird things going on with this planet all of a sudden. And then when I discovered it was right beside Cygnus X1, I was like, no way.
Yeah, doing digs, it'll do that to you. You find bits and pieces that just shouldn't fit together, but they do. Have you answered... there's questions here for you. Have you... from Lane Lair, does Crystal follow Douglas Vogt, V-O-G-T?
No, don't know who he is, but I'll check him out. Should I be following him?
I don't know. I don't know who Douglas Vogt is either. And there's a question from Prime Mover. What is the significance of the 6 stars of the Northern Cross to humanity? Enlightenment, perhaps, at Crystal?
Yeah, the whole Northern Cross is the Enlightenment. It represents the swan. I don't know if you guys ever seen that picture of Trump. It's in one of my videos. He's sitting on a big swan chair with bare feet, and he's all in a white suit. Have you guys seen that? It represents enlightenment. Yeah, it's the cross of Christ. It's carrying. You have a cross to carry, and that's in the zodiac as well. Like, if you understand alchemic astrology, you're born on a cross, and that cross is part of your path. So we're all carrying a cross, but that is the cross. That is the original cross. It's in the sky. Sometimes it's upside down, though. Sometimes it's upside down, depending which way you're looking at it, right? As it comes along and it's going down into the horizon, sometimes it's upright and sometimes it's up wrong. So therefore, we have the upside down cross.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on the topic of panspermia or aliens. And do you want to talk a little bit about cometary tail and the motion of the comet? Because I just assumed that was the tail of the comet indicated the direction the comet was traveling. But it was only this afternoon that I realized that it was the solar wind stripping the comet of volatiles, and that's what makes the tail. So it could be traveling in the same direction as its own tail.
Wow, I didn't know that. All I know is it creates a V. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show V back in the 80s. Like, I don't know if you guys are as old as me.
Yeah, they ate mice, didn't they? They were lizard people.
Yeah, exactly, lizard people. So they're talking about the Anunnaki, right? But they were called V. Now the comet is a V. Yeah. So yeah, it's one is the star, one is dust, and one is gas. It creates a V behind it. Yeah, that's fascinating. I just learned that from Randall Carlson. So I was like, oh my god, the V. The V is funny. It's like, is it the Silver Gate? The Silver Gate to me is the Y. Because I tweeted that out on Twitter, and the White House liked it. The Y family is the Hyades. It's Taurus. So they're following the sky. The White House wouldn't, confirm that if they weren't following the sky.
Well, we've got precedent for that in American politics before. There was, what was her name? The Reagan wife, Nancy Reagan. Apparently she had astrology charts drawn up 3 times a day for her husband. So these people actually do believe this stuff, which makes it important, valuable knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. They're running everything by it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on May 5th. It's not very far away. We have Mercury. That's another thing. If you're biblical, the book of Revelations, verse 10:2, it talks about having 1 foot on the earth and 1 foot in the sea. And it also talks about the face being like the sun. Now, that is all happening this winter solstice. Now, why I understand what it means is that it's the constellation Ophiuchus, which is just above Scorpio. It's the 13th zodiac that nobody talks about. It's only there for 22 days, but they kind of scrubbed it. It's the doorway. It's the Freemason doorway. It means it's planet. They don't tell you what planet relates to it. They say it's Cryon, Pluto's moon, but it's really Mercury. Trump is Mercury. Okay, he is the number. If you do in gematria to put the word in Trump, it comes to 88. Well, Mercury is 88, as it has an 88 orbit. Mercury is also Enki. So Ophiuchus is Enki in the constellations. It's also Mercury. Now, Mercury, on the winter solstice, we have the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Capricorn, which is Enki. It's the man goat. Okay? And then we have Venus at the bottom of the doorway of Ophiuchus, which is, again, Enki. 1 foot on the land, 1 foot in the sea, which is, the sea is the Milky Way. That's why, because Ophiuchus has his foot on the sea. And then Mercury is in conjunction with the sun on the Golden Gate at the tip of the spear. Okay? Which makes the sun, the man's face turn like sun. It's in the Revelations 10:2. So if you guys want to check that out, it's all there. But it's in my last video. I explained that all in my last video. I just find it fascinating because when the biblical prophecy, aligns to what's happening in the sky, I pay attention.
Okay, we're getting a bit tight for time, Crystal. You've done an excellent job this evening. Thank you so much for your time. And will you promise to visit us again when you've got more research to present? Or would you like to go into detail at a further date into some of the questions you've raised? We didn't even touch the topic of panspermia.
Okay, so yeah, I would love to do that. Just sent me a tweet. Okay. And I want to go over the whole zodiac of the birth of the United States. I think it's important to understand, it'll help people understand what planets mean. It'll also help understand how they did it all so that we could be enlightened, and to not fear this knowledge, to really embrace it and to try to find your truth in it. That's really why I'm trying to, share it all, is to find, just to get people to a really peaceful place, and if we can all get there, we'll do so much healing, for the planet if we can do that. And it's important. The revenge thing, I think we need to let go of it a little bit, and I think it's just going to play out that we're going to run out of time before the revenge becomes fruitful to the point that we need it to for some people. So that's where I'm at anyhow. But yeah, I'd love to come back and share more anytime.
Beautiful. You have an open invitation. Just try and give us as much heads up as you can. And we'd love to have you back. I'm sure that I speak for the rest of the team here. There was one article from Puppy Max that was absolutely mind-blowing. Puppy, are you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Crystal. Thanks so much, Crystal. Please do join us again. It's been wonderful listening to you.
It was awesome, Crystal. I really loved it.
Oh, great. I'm glad. That's super. I'm glad it doesn't freak you guys out. Freak some people out.
Oh, no.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it's hidden knowledge that we have a right to, we just have to piece it all together and see it for what it is, and just enjoy the ride, man. It's like we got a lot to look forward to, and we're coming into a whole new world, a whole new age, and I think it's going to be magical, absolutely magical. Just like Ivanka Trump tweeted out the palindrome with the numbers. She said it may be magical, and I went, oh, May is the May Queen. It's Taurus, it's Venus. So she's dropping tweets too, so it's all there for us to see.
Well,
Um,
I have to agree. This information is just spectacular, and I'm so intrigued by it. And yes, I'm open to this information, as I'm sure others are too. And it just fascinates me. Every moment that I hear explanation coming from you, Crystal, it completely fills a void that I feel that has been there for quite some time.
did Scope come clear with anyone else, or was he roboting on my end as well?
He's
He's
roboting,
not
but I
robotic,
got
but
it.
Okay.
popping
I
out,
got
in
it.
and out. Yeah, okay.
Hey, Puppy, do you want
Thank
to share
you.
that document about the Pentagon releasing the UFO files? Would you feel
Yeah,
comfortable
I'm
doing
going
that?
to. Oh yeah, sure. I'm going to drop that in YouTube chat right now. Drop. Okay, there is an article from USA Today. It was published on April 28th, yesterday, at 1:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Unidentified aerial phenomena, that's what they call it because UFO is still taboo. Pentagon declassifies three leaked US Navy UFO videos. And remember those? They were shown like a couple of years ago, and they were leaked in 2007. All right, I'll read you. It's not that long. I'll read you the article. The Pentagon on Monday released three unclassified videos showing unidentified aerial phenomena in an attempt to clear up any misconceptions regarding whether the videos, which have been circulating for years, are real. The three videos, the first of which was leaked in 2007 and discovered by the US Navy in 2009, show small flying objects. In one of the videos, a person claims, "What the beep is that?" The videos were recorded in January 2015, according to the Department of Defense. The other one was taken in November 2004. In a statement, the Defense Department said the Navy previously acknowledged the videos were Navy videos. After a thorough review, the department has determined that the authorized release of these unclassified videos does not reveal any sensitive capabilities or systems and does not impinge on any subsequent investigations of military airspace incursions by unidentified aerial phenomena, the Department of Defense said in a statement Monday. No explanation. Flying objects over Kansas City leave locals suspecting aliens. I think this is like a link. And then the videos known as FLIR 1, FLIR 1, Gimbal, GIMBAL, and Go Fast, AST, were previously published by the New York Times and to the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, which was co-founded by former Blink-182 band member Tom DeLonge. He speak fake. A Navy spokesman in September told USA Today that the videos were real and referred to the objects as unidentified aerial phenomena or UAPs instead of UFOs. The spokesman at the time said UAP was preferred over UFO because of the stigma surrounding the latter term. He added that using UFO discourages pilots from reporting incidents for fear of being ridiculed. The aerial phenomena observed in the videos remain characterized as unidentified, the DOJ said in Monday's statement, but they are real. The videos are real, and they just admitted it in public. They have been denying it for years. That's the end of the article.
Awesome. Cool bananas. Hey, Oz, have you got anything that absolutely has to make the cut? Have you got anything special for us lined up?
I've been popping everything into chat, so no worries.
Okie dokes. I'll have a look what Oz has got, and then
Oh no, like I've been popping it into the the chat room throughout the show, so it's okay because we've had a full show tonight. It's been awesome.
It certainly has. Yeah. Okay. Perhaps we should. Scope's not here. He's popped out again. We've got a few minutes on the clock. How should we run them out?
Can I read from my book?
Yeah, that'd be awesome, puppy.
Alright. This is a day at a time, and today is April 29th. Reflections for today is: as I grow in the Anonymous program, sharing, caring, and becoming more and more involved, I find that it's becoming easier to live in the now. Even my vocabulary is changing. No longer is every other sentence salted with such well-used phrases as could have, should have, would have, or might have. My question for today is: what's done is done, and what will be will be. The only time that really matters is now. Am I gaining real pleasure and serenity and peace in the program? My prayer for today is that I may collect all my scattered memories from the past and high-flown schemes and overblown fears for the future and compact them into the nurtured confines of today. Only by living in the now may I keep my balance without bending backwards to the past or tipping forward into the future. May I stop trying to get my arms around my whole unwieldy lifetime and carry it around in a gunny sack with me wherever I go. Today I will remember, make room for today. That's it.
Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you, Puppy.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, pup.
That was so perfect. That's what it's all about. You got it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, guys, I'm going to run us a quick prayer just to make sure that we end the show, knowing that we've done good work. So, just a quickie. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the warmth of family and friends, and we ask that you bless us in our purpose. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Godspeed to you all.
Yeah, you too, Crystal. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Should I play Rick Grebenak now?
Yes, and thank you to Rick for giving us permission to play your song each week as our closing piece. It's a wonderful, wonderful composition, and we thank you.
Thank you. Puppy, you want to say goodbye?
Guys, I'm going to sign off. You all have a good day and good night or good afternoon, and I'll see you on Friday. Ciao, ciao. Or as we say in Holland, doei.
Ciao, baby.
See you, puppy. I'll say good night, good morning, and good day to everybody. And to Carmen, if you're listening, if you're feeling better, all our love, all my love, and we'll catch you on Friday, hopefully. Take care. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks, Puppy. Thanks, Dumpster. Thanks, everyone in chat. Awesome.
Oh,
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, do you want to wrap up your work? Just give us a quick explanation of what it was. Just a couple of sentences, please, Crystal.
Yeah, well, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you for inviting me on here to share. And I hope it just basically gives you a sense of the bigger picture of what we're in and how it's all about, attaining our own enlightenment. And that's what this whole journey is about. And the founding fathers wanted that for us. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. It was really fun, and hopefully we can get together again soon.
Sweet, thank you. Scope, are you standing by there?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you please lead us in prayer?
Absolutely. Can you give me 10 seconds to
Sure.
prepare my heart?
Hey, we've got Transformative Visions out in YouTube. Nice to see you. And thanks, guys.
I'm signing out. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
See you, Crystal. Thank you.
Any ideas on Friday morning, Dumpster, for subject matter? Any idea that you could tempt the chatter listeners with?
Oh, I've got 2 pieces in the can. One is about the Nazis, and the other one is about what was it called? Sorry, my mind's just gone blank. The United Nations. So we've got the Nazi legacy that's with us today, or we've got a discussion on exactly what the UN is and what it does, and why we shouldn't be funding it. So,
Awesome.
Okay.
Sounds juicy.
And I've got some good news articles I can present, the ones I had ready for today. And
We've had a pretty packed show tonight.
I've got like 5 things for Friday.
Excellent.
Awesome. So you can relax, puppy. You don't have to stress out about finding material. You've already got it. So you're miles ahead.
I've got it.
That's awesome.
I've got it. All right.
Okay, guys. Are we ready for a prayer?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay, need to apologize for some of the background noise here. I'm just in an awkward spot, but wanted to pray today. Father God, we pray to you. I pray to you this morning. Others around this world receive this prayer at night. But today, God, I wake up with a refreshed feeling of joy in my heart. That my spirits are lifted because you are with me. And because you guide me and help me along this path. Lord Father, as others rest tonight and go to sleep, we ask that you protect them, protect their minds and their hearts. Give them a refreshed and reinvigorated spirit as they awake in the next day to do your bidding, to do your will, to bring to light the things that you have us know, to share the information that has been out there for so long, lost, and now being brought to the present. Lord Father, we thank you for this information. We know that some of it is just hard, for it is hard what we do to see the evil. And thank you so much, Lord Father. We praise you that you balance it with the good, and that you bring people such as Crystal to our ears, who may help us piece together the things that we feel within our bodies, within our minds, our hearts, that ring true, that ring credence to the things, Lord, that you have developed in the universe for all to understand. Dear God, we ask that you please protect our leaders, the leaders of this world who work together to bring joy and happiness and love and grace back to this planet. Lord Father, we ask that you please look over our president here in these lands, Donald J. Trump and his administration, and all who love him, protect him, and work with him in this plan, Lord Father, that we feel that you have anointed him with. And we thank you so much for giving us such a leader at this time to help us through this evil darkness, to help us get to the other side of understanding and love and precious guidance that you give us. Lord God, protect those people who are out there who are impacted by this terrible virus. We ask, Lord, that you please blanket this world in your mercy, and that you find your millionaires, your doctors, to make a cure to find a cure. Each and every day you help them bring a little something to help us fight this battle. And we are so grateful for these victories, whether they be small or whether they be large. We know that they are in your name and that you bring them here for your people to heal. Lord, we thank you that you prepare us for this journey. We thank you that you are with us and hold us so dear and that you love us. For we know that you are our God. We just ask that you show others that have any doubts, that are alone, that are scared and frightened, that are unsure, and have no one to be able to converse, to talk with, that are alone, that are separated from families due to this crisis. We ask, Lord, that you bring happiness to their soul, that you bring understanding to their heart of you, that you stay with them and strengthen them, and help them to understand that this is just a little while, and that then soon they'll be able to return to a normal life, the life that we knew before this terrible plague was released upon your world. Lord God, we thank you for these things. We pray these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen, sir.
Amen. Thank you, Scope.
Okie dokes. I'm going to play Rick Grebenak. Is there anything that needs to be addressed before I close out the show? Thank you, Scope. That was an excellent prayer. Thank you very much.
I'm good to go. Good night, everyone. Good morning and good.
And I'm playing the song now.
There are times in life when things get overwhelming, and I've gone as far and as long as I can go. And when I need the most, my failing friends astound me. Lord, you're there, you've been comfort to my soul. And I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valleys, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. I must walk by faith and not by sight. You told me, and there's rewards for those I know that seek your face. But I can use a glimpse right now, Lord, of your glory. And in my darkest hour, you give me strength. 'Cause I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valleys, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. I raise my hand, sing hallelujah. You are worthy of our praise. And when the storm comes, Lord, I am running to you. And I will glorify your name. Oh, my pain so free. And you took the nails for me while I was lost. And all the trials that I go through, Lord, they are nothing, no, compared to what you went through on that cross. I raise my hand, sing hallelujah, for you are worthy of all praise. And when the storm comes on, I am running to you. I will glorify your name. 'Cause I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valley, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. And when I'm walking through the valley, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. Trust in you.